everyone. Welcome to another edition of Thought Leaders Live, where we talk with thought leaders in business, life, and all points in between. Today, we are talking with Greg Whitman, President of Spuncast Incorporated, an employee-owned foundry right here in Watertown, Wisconsin, specializing in precision centrifugal casting. Full disclosure, Greg is a client of Wimbound's. But I think you will really enjoy what he has to say and some insights that he has in the manufacturing space, especially in centrifugal casting. So, Greg, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Sure. And now tell us a little bit more about your Spuncast, the journey of Spuncast, and your own personal journey.
Well, Spuncast is a centrifugal foundry, as you said. We started in 1976. We had three principal owners at that time, and they basically did it all. They did sales, manufacturing, delivery, accounting. And so from that humble beginning, we grew to about 125 employees that we have today, at a facility that has actually two foundries, two different machine shops, engineering, accounting, sales, heat treat and saw departments. We ship out of here, international and domestically. So over the years, Spuncast has grown pretty sizable. We started out probably a $1 to $2 million company. We're roughly 30 to 35 today. So between the square footage and the sales increases, that has been the primary journey of the company. My own, I started in inside sales about 22 years ago, and it was a very different environment back then. I had no experience. I was right out of college, and learned pretty much everything I knew from here, and got into outside sales, got into sales management, got into planning and production, and now eventually onto the president's position.
It's very interesting evolution that you've gone through. You've been here, did you say 22 years?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've seen it. How old again? I'm sorry, is the foundry is
1976.
76.
Going on 50 years. Yeah.
50 years. So, I mean, you saw roughly half of this whole growth cycle.
Yes, my daughters like to remind me of that and how old I am. Thank you.
Yeah. That's not what I was going for, but yeah. What was it like? I mean, the journey when you jumped in. So you're almost like about midstream. You said it started with three people. Where were they about in the scaling process when you came in? And, has it just been kind of a steady, ongoing ascent?
In the early days, yeah, till about 2008, 2009, when we entered the Great Recession, was kind of where we stopped seeing that growth. And then we've kind of been bobbing up and down since then, trying to kind of find our mark. But yeah, in 1976, they had one customer, three employees. They made one part. They had one cast machine, one furnace, in a single old tractor dealership building. And so from that, they added on more customers that were similar, very simple process material, what we call heat-resistant furnace tubes. Basically, you cast them, you pull them out, and you can ship them right away. They don't require heat treating. They don't require machining. But the molds are permanent molds, and they're reusable. And so what they found is they had to have some machining equipment in order to service their molds. Otherwise, they couldn't make their castings. And so as they started to service the molds and do minimal machining on them, customers said, well, hey, wouldn't it be great if you could do some machining on the ends of our castings also? And so then we started getting into machining. And then there were such a multitude of other steels that we could get into. We really had to add the heat treat capability as well in order to be able to bring in some of the low alloy steels, which is really our bread and butter today. I mean, we do more low alloy steel than any other centrifugal foundry in the country. But again, we started with completely different type of material. Today, we do over 200 different alloys. So everything in between those high alloy heat resistant grades all the way down to the low alloy high strength steels.
Tell me a little bit about that journey to get to all those different alloys and the metallurgical capabilities you brought on. You've got an in-house metallurgical expert. Right. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, really, it's all metallurgy. So they were both foundrymen. the two primary owners. They had a kind of a silent third partner, but they were both primarily foundry men, and they knew that product line very well. And so that's what they started with. But then they began to hire metallurgists, engineers, more technical folks, because they knew they couldn't grow just with doing the one thing that they knew. Excuse me. And so when we brought in, we've had as many as 5 metallurgists on staff at a given time. And so that really is what helped get us to grow through the 80s and the 90s. And really on our way, I think we peaked in 2008, was when we had just put on a new $10 million foundry expansion project. So we added automation, we added new equipment. I mean, it really, with the technical knowledge that we had gained over the decades, the sky was the limit at that point.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the company, the people who work here. For any manufacturer, recruiting and retaining employees is a challenge. Tell me about some of the things that you really emphasize when you're trying to recruit and retain employees at Spuncast.
Yeah, Spuncast is an employee-owned company, so what we call an ESOP for tax purposes, but also is essentially a pension plan for the employees. So at the end of the day, at the end of the year, our profits roll back into the company. They roll back into the equipment that we buy, the employees' wages, their benefits, and then also an actual pension fund that when they retire, it pays out over a 5-year period of time. And this is on top of a 401k or any other sort of private retirement savings that they might also have. And so because we're able to constantly reinvest in them and in the rest of the company, I think that makes it a unique place to work, and it gives them sort of a vested interest in what we're doing. It shows them that we're committed to them, and then hopefully we're getting their commitment back. And it's becoming more prevalent in Wisconsin, but it's still a pretty rare thing to find an employee-owned company to work for these days, I would say.
Yeah, what prompted the movement to an ESOP?
Yeah, so the original owners, about 2004, I think it was, they were getting to the age where they were starting to really consider retirement, and they didn't have anybody behind them to sort of take over the company. First they sort of considered it, then they saw the tax implications. We don't pay taxes, which is a nice benefit of being employee owned. And so at that time they converted something like 51 or 53% into the ESOP. And then over the years, as we could buy the rest of it from them, because you do have to buy basically stock from the original owners. And so over the course of the following years, up until about 2020, I'm going to say somewhere around 2020, we finally bought the rest of the remaining shares and became 100% employee owned. And so now there's no private ownership. It's really all of us here together doing it alone.
That's really amazing. And I, like you said, you don't really hear much about ESOPs today. Rewind for a second to that one little tidbit you said about not paying taxes.
Yeah, so because we're employee owned, there's a number of rules and regulations that we have to follow from the government. But one of the huge benefits is we do not pay taxes. So we don't pay taxes on earnings. At the end of the year, that's a huge asset. What we do with the money instead is we have to reinvest it into the employee pension fund. And so it's sort of a regulated manner in which, as long as the company is profitable, all of the employees that are part of the ESOP, and they don't have to be, that's another distinction. They can choose to not be part of the ESOP. However, it's essentially free money. I mean, this is money where you have to legally put into the fund every year. So it doesn't really make a lot of sense not to take part in it.
So not to just keep going into the minutia on that, but is when you are allowed to create that pension fund, or you're actually mandated to create that pension fund, that money would normally go towards what for the government in terms of your taxes? Is that normally allocated for Social Security and Medicare, or does that still go in?
So we still pay Social Security and Medicare, right?
Okay.
So it's just the actual federal tax and the property tax and sort of all of those things. that we get outside of. But any employee benefit is exactly the same. So when they get their paycheck, they're going to see the same thing as far as Social Security withheld, Medicare withheld, etc.
Okay, but you don't see pensions anymore. I mean, that used to be
Not
a
at all.
mainstay, and that is really an amazing incentive for you as an employer to offer out to prospects. Do you find many people are interested in it and take advantage of it?
Typically, when they hire, they definitely take advantage of it. I mean, we have a very high percentage engagement rate with the employees, and we do require them to also contribute to a 401k plan on the side, because if what we can do with the ESOP can be a big portion, and then what they can do with the 401k can be a matching portion or a similar portion, I mean, they're really they'd be able to retire earlier. They'd be able to be more comfortable when they get there. I mean, it's just, I think sometimes the young people don't always see it straight away, and you wish they would see that faster. But I think
Yeah.
once people are here 2 and 3 years, they absolutely understand the magnitude of it, and definitely something that they cherish.
So tell me about some other benefits that would come from working at Spuncast that you try and share with people. Before we jumped on the call, you were mentioning some things about what people typically think about a foundry. So let's talk about that. But let's also talk about some of the other jobs that occur at a foundry.
Sure. Well, a foundry is a place where we melt metal. So we take a bunch of scrap and we heat it up into a big pot, essentially. You melt it into a liquid state, and then you pour it into a rapidly spinning reusable steel mold, as I said before. So it's incredibly dynamic. It's incredibly hot, roughly 3,000 degree temperatures in the foundry. And you're pouring that molten steel into a spinning mold that's trying to capture the steel and the benefits of centrifugal force to form a tube, basically. So everything that we make is tubular. From there, and the excitement that you see in the metal forming process, we then heat treat the material, which is the act of raising the temperature again to affect its mechanical properties, and then quenching it slow or rapidly. So sometimes we use water, sometimes we use air. And so you're taking a very hot casting and trying to change its temperature very rapidly to change the microstructure of the material. And then after that, we still have a machine shop. And so that's fairly typical of other machine shops that you'll see. However, because all of our product is tubular, you see a lot of lathes here. You don't see a lot of millwork. So primarily we're turning the part, and then we are removing scale from the outside or inside of the tube, and basically then turning it into a shiny part. So all of those different things are things you might see, and then those are different manufacturing jobs that we have here. But even outside of manufacturing, I mean, we're still hiring engineers, metallurgists, accounting folks, sales folks, leaders for every different department in the company, shipping people, quality and inspectors, people to help us with ISO and in our ISO audits annually, and maintaining our certification, lab technicians, because we are a certified lab. Also, we verify and certify all of our chemistries and mechanical properties of the metals that we make. And that's pretty critical, because these days, if you don't have some kind of proof of what you made, you're not going to have a lot of customers.
Right. So I always think about, like, tech gets all the people get so excited about tech, and it gets all the glitz and the glamour. But whenever I go to a manufacturing place, and I've had the pleasure of touring the Spuncast facility, I'm always amazed that what you folks can do, and the engineering and the mind power behind that. Tell me about, though, that being said, what do you need to come in to work at Spuncast? What are some of the different backgrounds do you need to bring in? I'm sure engineering, metallurgical, touch on that, but also talk about some of the more of the trades and any kind of educational background you need.
Sure. I mean, people that are highly mechanical can turn a wrench, know cars really well, tend to make great maintenance people here at Spuncast. People that know things about computers and networking tend to make good IT folks for us. And then, as you mentioned, engineering background, metallurgical background, or materials science. There's not truly too many pure metallurgists anymore. But most of those other things we can teach. We can teach you how to make a casting in the foundry. We can teach a person how to machine that casting. We can teach somebody how to run our saws or run our heat treat furnaces. And so really it's about finding the right people. Who does the ESOP resonate with? Who does manufacturing resonate with? Who does, lighting things on fire resonate with? Right? Again, it's a pretty dynamic, fiery experience, as you can see by the picture behind me. So it's trying to find the right people, the right cultural fit, but then also we have to educate them. So it's a give and take for sure.
Sure. So tell me about yourself when you came to Spuncast. What brought you in? What was your background like? Did you ever think you were going to work in a foundry, much less be the president of one someday?
No, not at all. I started out, again, 20 some years ago. I had graduated college. I was young. I had just gotten married. I had to pay bills, and I was really desperate to try to find a job anywhere. But one thing I knew, and is really true today, is going to the manufacturers, they're always hiring. And so it was really just a matter of finding where I wanted to be. I tried a couple of printing press shops prior to this, a powdered metal factory, and then ended up coming to Spuncast. And going through the foundry experience was so unlike anything I'd ever seen or heard of before. And then position was open in inside sales. So I took that. I've always sort of had a sales background. I've done a lot of retail jobs, a lot of restaurant jobs when I was younger. And then through inside sales, it just really getting to work with the customers and seeing what they do with our parts, and then working closer with manufacturing and the engineering group, and really trying to understand why we're doing what we're doing. What makes it better, what makes it a better option than some of the other tubular products that are out there. And just really, I credit the curiosity that I have, the idea that I always am trying to learn new things with my success here. And then also being good with some of the younger folks that came up and kind of trying to share my passion with them so that they could come up kind of the same way. And I've had really good tenure with salespeople, trying to train them the same way that I knew, and trying to get them out there in front of customers the same way. I think that's really important. And just, I would have never guessed that I would be in a foundry, and I would never guess that I would have fallen in love with it. And over the years, just truly become like part of it, and just really want to make it succeed. I took the job to be the president because I really want to see this place grow, and I want to see it around for the generations to come, because not just the ESOP and the pension fund, but we're a solid manufacturer with a great background, great reputation, great safety record. I mean, we're a good place to work. So I think all those things make us a valued member of our community.
When you first started out, like you said, you were probably a little desperate for a job, and you knew you could get hired by a manufacturer, and then you got hired. Was there a point where you started to kind of become, I don't know, for lack of a better word, kind of a foundry nerd, where you really got into it? And you mentioned your passion, where I think people, once they get into an occupation and they get good at it, they get a level of expertise, they really start to get into it, and they really start to know the business. And I think my personal perspective is, for a lot of young people out there who can't find their passion, or they don't know what their dream job is, or like, I don't even have a passion. I feel like if they can get into a place and do what you did, and get in somewhere and then learn something, maybe about something they didn't really know much about. Like, I don't know how much you knew about foundry work when you got there. That passion can come with the expertise. Is that kind of been your experience?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I mean, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up, right? So it's coming here and learning this. I mean, if the gentleman that trained me and that sort of got me along this trail, taught me to be a salesperson, he was also a metallurgist. He was very curious and liked to learn as well. But he always said, if you can stand next to something and you like to watch it light up on fire, then this is probably the place for you. And so it's Sometimes people find that terrifying, and that's okay. We maybe aren't for you, but to people who sort of like to build things, who like to take something from one form and turn it into another form, really to solve problems and to be really part of a niche industry. There's not very many people who do what we do. There's so much to learn just from the metallurgy side and the heat treat side, the machining side, and then again, everything that our customers do. We're in every industry that you can think of, and no matter what the product line is, almost everything uses some type of steel tubular product, whether it's a ring or a long tube or anything in between. And so if you can't find a passion in sort of all of those different offerings that we have, yeah, just keep an open mind. I mean, I think that's what happened for me, and I think it's definitely possible for lots of folks.
I think there's a line from the Batman movie, from the Joker, who says, "Some people just want to watch the world burn." So maybe
Right.
that could be a recruiting slogan for you.
I don't know if that's what we want to go for, but if you want to watch the metal burn, absolutely.
Yeah, right. It is pretty spectacular. Like I said, I've been on the floor, and it's pretty cool to see the whole process. Let's talk a little bit now about just the niche that you have, and the centrifugal niche, centrifugal casting niche, and give us some of the strengths of being a niche manufacturer, and then maybe some of the challenges you face.
Sure. Well, challenges wise, I mean, it's a generic shape, right? It's a tube. So why would I want a tube? There's tubes I can buy all over the place. So there's a lot of competition for tubular products. So what we are really trying to key in on is a specialty application steel tubular product. So we're talking about non-standard alloys, non-standard wall thicknesses, maybe non-standard lengths or quantities. So we're willing to take a one-piece order. We're willing to take a 100-piece order. There are a lot of other tube manufacturers out there that have minimum quantities. They have specific grades of alloys that they produce and nothing else. They have restricted size ranges. We're sort of not held in by any of those constraints. So that's the nice side of being a niche manufacturer. People tend to know who we are and what we do. I think, when we first started marketing, for instance, we found that the term centrifugal casting actually resonated far more out there in the world than I would have thought, because I just assumed people didn't know what they were. But it's quite the opposite. I mean, it's a well-known way to make a specialty application tube, as I said, and there are very few of us who do it. So, I mean, we all know each other as competitors. I think by and large, most of the customers know us. And so that gives a familiarity. There's not a lot of searching for orders. It's, do we want to do this, or do we want to do this other tube? And so again, we've made our niche in low alloy steel, where a lot of folks don't, but there's still those heat resistant grades. There's other grades of stainless, there's copper, there's aluminum. We don't do those two here at Spuncast. But there's so many different ways to take advantage of the centrifugal process, and then the subsequent operations as we do here, that really lends itself to a lot of industries.
And you've taken on the role of president, and the company, as we've talked about, it's employee owned. Talk to me a little bit about the plans for the future at Spuncast. What is it like to try and build a vision, and is it done just by a management team? Is it done as a collective? And what is the vision for Spuncast?
Yeah, I really believe in creating a culture of excellence, right? I mean, if we all want to be part of something that is excellent, then we all have to excel at the things that we do, and we have to do that together. And I think that then creates our culture, right? So we're trying to find a group of like-minded folks that want to excel. We don't just want to make a tube, we want to make the best one, and we want to make more of them than everyone else who does it. And that's really the growth pattern. As we're able to make more of them, then again, being an ESOP, we're taking that profit and we're reinvesting in the company. We're able to buy more automated equipment, and we're not looking to replace any of our employees, but we're looking to make their lives a lot easier, right? The benefit to us is happy workers will make better products. Again, we get that culture of excellence. We're investing in them, they're investing in our future, and then we all grow together. And so I think the growth for the future, particularly in the next 10 years, I think is astronomical, because there is a group of clients out there that we know we can go after and chase. There's products that we already know how to make, that we could make more of, and that we could do a better job of. And so it's really about increasing our capacity and really increasing our productivity and efficiency and all of those things. And so, yeah, again, I think the future is very bright here.
Talk to me a little bit about scaling, especially with a company that is niched, not only niched, but customized. All the products are, that's who you're leaning into. Is there's some real challenges with scaling like that?
Yeah, I would say it's not something that you can do quickly.
Okay.
But again, I think we have, if you look over a 10-year period, I think that's a lot of time too, right? So we can be a little conservative with how we spend money, but at the same time, we can be very thoughtful, and we can plan far ahead, because from an economic standpoint, again, an ESOP, very stable company. I mean, we don't have to worry about really high highs and really low lows. And so it makes planning, and particularly long-term planning and reinvestment in the company, I think more straightforward. I don't want to say easy. Financial planning is never easy, but at least it's something that you can sort of put the playbook out there, or the map to the future out there, and then people can really see that, yeah, this does make a lot of sense, and they know that you're not lying to them.
I mean, I love the concept that you have to invest in your people, you have to invest in the company, in the equipment and the technology. It just really seems like such a smart option. I wish we could see more of it, but I'm really glad you guys are pushing the envelope on it and doing so well with it. Let's just take a second and pivot just to the macro impact of state of manufacturing right now, tariffs, the reshoring initiative. How has it impacted Spuncast?
So we've seen a couple of clients that we had years ago that had moved out to China move back. They maintained manufacturing facilities in the U.S. Not a lot of that happened overall. So it's really two sizable companies that came back. That's about the only benefit we've seen from the tariffs at this point. We were an importer of some Italian steels, which we've kind of gone away from. That's been a bit pricey to bring that in. But the good news for us is we probably 98% of our supply base and 98% of our customer base are domestic. So the tariffs haven't largely impacted us outside of those two examples. What the future holds, it's hard to say. I mean, you hear about manufacturers positively and negatively every day. We've got some here in town with us that aren't doing as well as we are right now. But then again, a lot of machine shops and primary metal manufacturers are just as busy as we are and doing just fine. So I think it really depends on the industries that you're in. But like anything, what are the market conditions? How are you handling your company? I mean, these are things that we face all the time.
Talk to us a little bit about your supply chain and your availability to resources. I think you do something really unique and fantastic for the environment, just with how you recycle a lot of your metals.
Yeah, so primarily we're using scrap, and we're melting that down to make our castings. And so we're buying scrap from over 30 dealers all over the United States. And so we're bringing these in by the truckload daily. We're not as big as a steel mill, so we're not buying quite as much as they are, but we're still diversifying our supply base and doing it in a manner that is also beneficial to the environment, in that we're reusing that metal. I mean, steel can be remelted indefinitely. So even any cut off ends or machine shop chips that we're producing through our secondary processes, we recapture that. Nothing gets thrown out. We keep reusing it over and over and over, and it'll eventually become a used product out there in the world.
So Greg, if someone wants to come to work for Spuncast or wants to do business with Spuncast, what's a great way to get a hold of you and get a hold of the company?
Yeah, check out our website. We got a lot of great content and video at www.spuncast.com. You can check us out on YouTube if you want to see any videos of the process. Those are very cool. And then, of course, telephone, email. Email is sales@spuncast.com. Our mainline number here is 920-261-7853. So any or all of those ways are great ways to get a hold of us. Again, I should mention our website also has a number of different contact forms for getting in touch with us as well, if that's the way you rather do it.
Fantastic. Well, Greg, thank you so much for spending some time with us. I always find it kind of uplifting talking to you about how the ESOP and the company and the culture that you've built there. I think it's really it's a great success story, and I'm glad you came on the show to share it with everybody. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone for joining us, and we'll see you next time.